Welcome back to class. Again, I'm Engineer Faith Pedro, your resource person for this online digital training class organized by the Cybersafe Foundation. And I will be continuing from where I stopped in the previous class. Remember, we are still talking on problem solving. And for this class, we'll be looking at complex problem solving. Problem solving is very important because, like I said earlier, in our day-to-day life, we are constantly besieged by problems of various sorts, which we must solve to be able to move further. So, like I said, we'll be talking on complex problem solving. What is complex problem solving? Complex problem solving is a series of observation and informed decisions used to find and implement a solution to a problem. Informed decisions used to find and implement a solution to a problem. Beyond finding and implementing a solution, complex problem solving also involves considering future changes to circumstances, resources, and capabilities that may affect the trajectory of the process and success of the solution. Sounds like plenty grammar. Let me still break it down a little, and I'm still going to use my background as a case study. Let's say you want to build a road that connects this, let's say, this town to the next town. Probably the road was a smaller road and a bad sort of, may have been existing, but it went bad. Now you want to build a road that you connect it. Now, when that road was built originally, probably the community, connecting communities were not so developed, so they just built it in a particular standard that can just accommodate light vehicular traffic. Now that you're coming back to build the road, let's say over time, the community over there has evolved and it has a lot of development has taken place. We have businesses thriving then. Same thing with the community, this other side that is connecting to. And you are now building the road. You should take into consideration that as you're building the road, it's most likely you will not have the same light traffic like you had prior to you building that road. You might now have more heavier axle load, plying that road than before. For instance, you could have more trailer load of goods plying that road. And we know how big trailer loads of goods can and heavy they can be. So as you're building the road, you have to consider, I have to consider that this road will be carrying more load than what it used to carry before. So that means we have to change the design standard that was used previously, design the road to accommodate future changes, or maybe there's a plan to set up, let's say, a port or something. And if you set up ports, you know what happens by port, I mean like a seaport. You know what happens, you have more container load plying that road. So you consider all of that and put it into your plan and just build a standard road that can accommodate those changes when it takes place. So this is what everything that I've just read here is talking about. That is not just about merely solving the problem, they also take into consideration future changes that may occur, that if you solve the problem for the now, by the time those future problems occur, the problem will come up again. But if you are solving the problem not just for the now, but taking into consideration the changes that will take place in the future, by the time you are done solving the problem and those future changes occur, the solution to that problem will still be applicable, it will still stand. So this is what all of this grammar I read here is talking about. Now we have simple problem and we have complex problem. What are the key difference? The key difference between complex and simple problem solving is the amount and kind of consideration that you must acknowledge. When solving simple problem, the consideration often includes the scope of the problem, the resources available to solve the problem, potential solutions, optimal solution, ways of implementing solution. Now, when solving complex problem, the consideration include the scope of the problem, the impacts of the problem, the resources available to solve the problem, potential changes to the situation, potential solutions, optimal solution, the impact of optimal solution, ways of implementing solution, the method of measuring solution success. Now, if you look at the consideration here, you can already note that we have more considerations in solving complex problem than you have in solving the simple problem, right? You can see maybe I can just still use that case study to just we can just briefly use that case study to see how we can understand this further. Yes, we have the case of a bad road and we need to solve the problem. If we want to use the simple problem solving skill, we'll just consider, oh, what's the scope of the problem? The road is bad. The resources available to solve the problem. The way the road is, say, the road is just the current state of the road is just, since it was a rural road originally, let's say just asphaltic, maybe a layer of asphalt on laterite. So we can now say, okay, yeah, this is what was there before. Let's just solve it. Reinstate the road to how it was. So we just decide that, okay, we should just put a layer of asphalt on top of the laterite. Then look for that resources connected to that. That now becomes the resources available to solve the problem. What was the funding like? What's the funding? Consider the funding. Then the potential solution now comes of it. Okay, this is how we are going to solve this problem. Put a layer of asphalt on the laterite. And then optimal solution. Okay, let's do this and possibly attach some drains to it to allow for hydraulic structure, to allow for channeling of water, and then ways of implementing. We go ahead and implement. You know, we could sublet it. We could maybe we have the equipment to do it ourselves, or whoever it is that is solving the problem. Now, when it comes to complex problem solution, let's say that's in case study, we are still looking at the scope of the problem. You need to build the road, the impact of the problem. This, because we have not built this road, it takes a longer time for, let's say, heavy axle load that cannot fly that road because the road is bad, to travel around to connect to the other town. Meanwhile, they could have just used this other shorter route, but because that route is bad, they have to do a longer turn just to still get to the destination they want to get to. So the impact of problem now means there's more resources are spent by the citizens that should have been using that road but are now using the longer road. The resources available to solve the problem, we have to check because it's from the resources that you can solve the problem. So you see, consider that. And then potential changes to the situation. Potential changes to the situation. Is it possible to get, let's say we don't have enough resources, is it possible that we can get extra funding? Is there any other person that can add that can help fund that project if need be? And then we have potential solutions. What are the potential solutions? You now begin to list, this road, it was a rural road before, but things have changed 20 years later. So we need to build it to meet current standard that can carry heavier axle load. So what are the design criteria for road construction that can carry heavy axle load? You consider all of that under your potential solution. Optimal solution is where you now balance whatever your potential solution will be with the available resources, because you want to solve the problem. The most important thing is that you want to solve that problem, build that. So you now get, at the end of the day, your available resources that you are sure of. You know, by the time you balance it with the solutions you have, you now come up with the optimal solution. The impact of the optimal solution. The impact will the resources you have, by the time you build this road, will the road last, or will you just use it for some few years and then it goes back to status quo? You know, you consider all of it. Remember, we're talking about consideration when solving a complex problem. What are the considerations to take into consider? That's what we are talking about. So you consider the impact of that optimal solution, and then ways of implementing solution. How do we implement this solution? Do you just put it out for open competitive bidding, or Do you do selection, or what, however you want to do it? So you consider that, and then the method of measuring solution success. At the end, you must be able to measure whether you were able to meet the success to that solution. So how can you tell if by the end of the day you build the road and the vehicle that were using the longer route are now using that shorter route, and the road can carry the weight and stand the test of time, then you just might have met the success to that problem. So all of these are what we consider under complex problem solving. Now, what is an example of a complex problem? Examples include climate change, world poverty, the global financial crisis, child abuse, terrorism, and drug abuse. Each of these examples of complex problems impact directly on individuals, families, and communities, and have implications for the lives of real people. So you can see these are not just individualistic problems, they are problems that affect a huge number of persons and covers a larger, the area that it affects is a larger expanse of area. Now, how do you identify complex problem? The solution to the problem depends on how the problem is understood. If you don't understand the problem very well, then it might be difficult for you to come up with the appropriate solution to that problem. So you must understand the problem. That is where reasoning comes in. Reasoning, thinking about that problem in a logical and more sensible manner. Now, the problem is not really understood until after it has been addressed. Complex means there's some bit of it's not straightforward, it's not so simple, there might be some bit of complications to it. So it is after the problem has been addressed, that is when you get to understand the problem. Like it keeps unfolding. As you're starting, you don't really get the full weight of what the problem consists of. So it's as you address it that it keeps unfolding, and then you now know better about the problem. The problem cannot be completely solved. They mention types of complex problem, climatic change. We are trying our best. Now we are talking about green energy, but of course it can never be completely solved, because how long will it take before green energy is completely accepted that humans are just using green energy? The problem, okay, people involved can have very different worldviews. And of course, still going back to this, the problem cannot be completely solved, and still going back to climate change, there's some person that still believe that, it's just propaganda, nothing is really happening. So while you're fighting the fight, the other person is not fighting the fight alongside with you. So that means the solution you might be thinking of to solve that problem, since the other person is not buying it, the other person will not key into it, and thereby end up not completely solving the problem. When people can have very different worldviews and have radically different views about the cause of the problem and the best way to respond. People involved can have very different views and have radically different views about the causes of the problem and the best way to respond. So you see people at the end of the day, they are not working in alignment. It's one of the ways to identify complex problems. And then finally, here we have solutions to complex problems are not true or false, but good or bad or better or worse. The solutions to complex problems are not true or false, but good or bad or better or worse. What are the 5 types of learning? What are the 5 types of learning? I think we should stop here. We'll continue about the 5 types of learning, which falls under our next class: self-management, active learning, and learning strategies. Thank you for staying with me to the end of this class. See you in the next class.